The lion banner sways and falls in the horror-haunted gloom. A scarlet dragon rustles by, borne on winds of doom. In heaps the shining horsemen lie, where the thrusting lances break, and deep in the haunted mountains, the lost black gods awake. Dead hands grope in the shadows, the stars turn pale with fright, for this is the dragon's hour, the triumph of fear and night.
All right, welcome, everybody, to World of Conan, and we're talking about the Hour of the Dragon, chapters 5 through 6. I'm joined by the brothers Kryn, and I just want to say,
Hello.
hail to the barbarian horse, all to the barbarians from up from the Vanaheim, further from Vanaheim, and down to the south, to the Black Kingdoms, from the east of Kitai to the west of Barakan Islands, but no picks allowed. And let's get to it, and we'll take a bit of a see where we're at first, if people don't remember or people are joining us for the first time. So at this point in the story, we've basically Conan has been kind of defeated in a battle, but he himself was taken out before that by a magical attack, basically by a child of darkness, whom the sorcerer Xaltatun had sent upon him, knowing full well that taking out Conan is absolutely key to take this and make it a victory. Obviously, he didn't think Valerius or Tarascus had it in him to to make it through this on his own, and he was probably quite right in that assessment. So he was defeated, Conan that is, and taken captive by Xaltatun against the wishes of Tarascus. Tarascus wanted to kill him, and they've taken Conan to Nemedia, to Belverus, the capital of Nemedia, and he's being held captive in the dungeons, waiting for whatever plan Xaltatun has next for Conan. And that's where we find ourselves in the story in chapter 5, with Conan in the dungeon. Let's go.
Well, to start with, this is actually one of the more interesting chapters. Not that there's any boring chapters in this book so far.
No.
They've all been exciting. And
Yeah.
I have to admit, when I first read because I've read it about 2-3 times now, the 2 chapters, because I want to get every paragraph perfectly ingrained in my memory. But when I first read it, I thought, well, okay, how can he outdo the excitement of the past few chapters? No, how can he top it? And he doesn't exactly top it directly, but he takes a circular path to topping it almost. Because this is a very, very interesting chapter. And directly, I'm going to say that not as much seems to happen on the surface, but indirectly, a lot more happens in a way. Because there's something that Xaltatun and Tarascus and the rest could not have predicted. And that's that the fact is that Tarascus made one major mistake, which he could not have known was a mistake. When his brother died to the plague that was spread by Xaltatun, Tarascus inherited the Seraglio and harem of his older brother. And within that harem was a noteworthy young woman by the name of Zenobia, named after the great queen of Palmyra, who tried to carve out a huge chunk of the Roman Empire, but was defeated by Valerian. Not Valerian. It was Aurelian. Aurelian was one of the greatest Roman emperors of the later Roman period. He defeated Zenobia, but Zenobia was a queen that he spared because he thought she was one of the most incredible women he had ever met. And he didn't make any advances on her, which is very un-Roman. He let her live, let her remarry a wealthy Roman.
Right.
And he pretty much let her go. She was living her life in leisure in her last few years over in Rome, I believe. So this is a name loaded with historic significance.
I didn't know that.
The most remarkable woman of antiquity.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's the history lesson here. And so Howard, he would not have been blind to this. He chose the name very purposely.
Yeah.
And the way he writes Zenobia, at first glance, I've heard her criticized. I think Dan read a blog where she was just called just another one of Conan's conquests or girlfriends. But she isn't. And yeah, I know she becomes queen of Aquilonia just because I've read up about that. But the girl, to use Howard's word, because every female is called girl to an extent at some point, is remarkable. Now, she comes to Conan's rescue in a manner that not even Valeria's ever done. And Valeria's my favorite, but I don't think any female character quite rescues Conan in this way. Except, to an extent, maybe Bêlit. But with Bêlit, there are question marks regarding whether it was Bêlit or Conan imagined he saw her. But I'd argue she was there. But the difference is Bêlit saved him in death, whereas Zenobia saved him in life. And her rescue is almost more total, I would argue, because she comes over, frees him. She's not drugged, but she's gotten the guards drunk.
Some she had drugged, though.
Yeah. She slips him a large dagger with which he can protect himself.
Yeah.
And she tries to guarantee his rescue and his liberty. And this is the only time I think that it's a case where Conan is captured and is dependent on someone else to rescue him.
And a slave at that, because she is essentially a slave. I mean, she has no words.
At least when I kind of read her, with her being a slave at the moment, it reminded me of Kull, how he was once, I think, enslaved. And she relies on her wit, which is very much kind of like Kull and Roll. But naturally, Conan is initially shocked and a little mistrustful because he's kind of...
Well, obviously.
I'm in the dungeon of my enemy.
Tricked by magic. Yeah.
And he's learned not to trust anyone in his years as king.
Well, yeah, and as an adventurer, mercenary. I mean, he's had cutthroats. Yeah. He has slept with, had cutthroats around him, mercenaries around him. He's had like truly, how would you say, like kind of like disgusting people in a sense around him. So he's learned to be very, very from all these people who would cut your throat for like a pouch of gold in an instant. So obviously he's very on edge.
Well, and this natural suspicion of his is semi-allayed, but also, he's just bewildered by her because she doesn't make any sense to him at first.
And she doesn't really make any demands. That's also usually there's, if it was a man, it would probably be demands like of some sort. Give me part of your kingdom or something. Like make me a baron or something.
Yeah, her exact quote I find really, really interesting. I'm just going to read a bit if you don't mind. I am only a girl of the King Seraglio, she said with a certain proud humility. He has never glanced at me, and probably never will. I am less than one of the dogs that gnaw the bones in his banquet hall.
Yeah.
But I am no painted toy. I am of flesh and blood. I breathe hate, fear, rejoice, and love. And I have loved you, King Conan, ever since I saw you riding at the head of your knights along the streets of Belverus when you visited King Naimed years ago. My heart tugged at its strings to leap from my bosom and fall in the dust of the street under your horse's hooves.
Yep.
And that declaration of love is I'm not now I've only read a few short stories of Howard's. It's a bit of a sudden one, and I don't think I can't recall if there was ever a female character who quite threw her heart out on like her sleeve and just handed it to Conan so quickly like that.
No, I don't think there was.
Because even Baelot took a bit of convincing and was a little uncertain of him. And her, it was initially a physical attraction more than it was emotional. But the emotional bond grew over time. And that's why it's such an important bond, because, you know, it's better for love to grow slowly because that lays down more groundwork and whatnot for a longer term relationship. At least that's the rational side of me that thinks that. But here, she's just bearing her soul, and it's a bit peculiar. And yet, the way it says it is that now Conan, though, did not once reply, wild and passionate and untamed he was, yet any but the most brutish of men must be touched with a certain awe or wonder at the bearing of a woman's naked soul.
Yep.
And that's where, I don't know what you think of her sudden love confession.
No, I think it's what you just read. I think it's very it's really beautiful. It's also very authentic. Like, you know, she says, I'm a person. Like, yes, they treat me like less than a dog, but I'm actually a person, and I fear, I breathe, I hate, I rejoice, I love. And I love you, King Conan. As she says, probably some of it has to do with seeing freedom in him. Like, I don't, maybe the sense of freedom that Conan carries might
which
be
always longed for.
Yeah, might be really one of the reasons that touches her heart.
Because it's really interesting, because with Valyria and Baelot, they were always free. They were never enslaved.
Yeah.
And yet Zenobia was enslaved probably since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
She comes from no great bloodline. She's not like Baelot in that regard. And yet, in a way, Conan gave her freedom. And in turn, she returns that freedom to him here. This is one of the most, like I said, it's one of the most raw pieces of dialogue we get. It reminded me of, to an extent, of the Terminator when, what's his name? Kyle Reese, confesses to Connor.
Yeah.
It's so sudden, so raw. And that's kind of the impression I get here. And it also reminded me of Aeneas and Dido in a way from the Aeneid. Not because I really love Virgil's writing. So it reminded me a bit of the love confessions between those two, Aeneas and Dido. This is something which I think that Howard is also looking to, I would argue, Rachel from Ivanhoe and Wilfred's kind of relationship here, because Rachel just falls instantly in love with Ivanhoe.
But this is also like she has carried this torch though for years, so it's not like a sudden
exactly.
Oh, and right now I just love you. Like it's been like many years. just
Yeah.
like in the Terminator.
She's loved him since she was a little girl.
It's very different than some of his other conquests, so to speak, like Valyria and Baelit.
Yeah.
He essentially just met him, and there was an attraction. Whereas here, Conan had yet to meet her. In fact, it was by sheer chance that she was in the same castle as
he visited. Yeah. But what's also interesting is how she carried this torch for years. He didn't know she existed, but it's something which the dogs,
I know,
distracted my thoughts because he's barking incessantly. I forgot my point. All right. But yeah, she's, like you said, carried this torch for years. And this is just one of the most. There's also when she kisses Conan's fingertips, I think it is. Let's see. Oh yeah, there, when she presses her lips to his fingers, it kind of reminds me of chivalric tradition in regards to, for example, Lancelot, Gawain, and Percival. Because in the chivalric romances, oftentimes, the male character will press a kiss to the back of the woman's hand or fingertips, or each of her fingers. And here, Howard has kind of reversed the roles. Yeah. In this instant, it's not the Queen of Love, so to speak. Conan's being put almost, okay, I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but he's kind of being put in the female role while she's being put in a bit of the masculine role. She's still very much a female character. He's still very much the ultimate male character. But Howard's doing something here which the way he's presenting her is different from the other ladies. But at the same time, there's a embracing of the female role on her part, because her language, the way she talks, and the way she's kind of holding herself vis-a-vis Conan. For example, Baelit and Valyria ended up, they were using very masculine language in a way. They're a warrior woman. They were, like saying, I'm a warrior. Yeah. I can hold my own. Zenobia is not presenting herself that way. She's basically the knight paying homage to, her love, but she's also just presenting herself as the ultimate female in a way, whereas at least almost in a submissive lover archetypal role. So here it's a very interesting scene, and
maybe it's more also like I for me it felt like it's more earnest, it's more truthful, it's more this is who I am, like fully, and she has no ulterior motives at all. And she just like gives herself completely, like beforehand already. In that she doesn't demand anything. She actually says, okay, no, don't worry about me, like it's important that you get away. Like she really embodies that love for another aspect, like it should be in a marriage, that it's not there's no other things that are more important but the other person.
But that's right, I just remembered, I was also going to point out there's another difference between her and from her, Baelit, and Valyria, is that Conan met those other two ladies, his two other great loves, in his much younger days. He's at this point in his 40s.
Yeah.
And Zenobia's, I think, 19 or 20?
I don't know the age, but I would figure somewhere in 20s, probably.
Yeah. So she's considerably younger than him. But there's and she's also the first one to really kind of make him almost a shy schoolboy, because he's just touched and awed by her words.
I mean, he's not used to it. The Hyborian world is not one of earnest, like
Yeah,
truthfulness. Your heart completely on the table for you to, trample, destroy. So he's not used to that at all. So
and she doesn't put up any resistance, because he's initially suspicious of her, and she sees as, I don't care. I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to keep being loyal to you because you're, the one I love. And that is just, it's very beautiful, but it's also very, very raw. And now, ironically, I had read in preparation for this stream the appendixes of Tolkien, as well as in preparation for another video. And in it, Aragorn confesses love for Arwen in a similarly raw fashion. And it's a little interesting. And although in that scene, well, Arwen is presented as the Queen of Love, and Aragorn is essentially the chivalric chaser of love. So there's something here that reminds me of that scene for some reason. But I like how she also relays a lot of important information. How King Tarascus has returned.
Yeah.
And
secretly.
Yeah. And that he brought his squire along, Aridius. There. I pronounced it a little better there. And that despite Zaltilton, Tarascus has decided that Conan should die. And Conan asks after Zaltilton, but here she says, do not speak of him. Demons are often summoned by the sound of their names. And that's basically, speak of the devil. But in the Lord of the Rings, Gandalf says something similar to Frodo. When Frodo, I think it ends up, it's Sauron or something that he says, that he mentions the name of or something. Or at least he asks, what does it say? What's written on the ring? And Gandalf hesitates and says, we should not say that. No, I don't want to say this, but here's the poem. And then, Frodo keeps asking after Sauron, and Gandalf basically says, I don't want to talk. If we're to talk about him, let's talk about him as the enemy, not as Sauron, because, you might bring his attention upon yourself. And this is where it's a similar idea here.
I mean, I don't know if you've read the Harry Potters, but in the later books, if you say Voldemort's name, they instantly know your location, and the Death Eaters appear to basically fight you. Who has dared to say his name?
Yep,
tracking
Voldemort.
Yes,
or as
I
used to call him as a kid, Voldilocks, because I thought he wasn't as intimidating as Sauron or Feast on Dauntless.
But I guess that's maybe the point, that he's like a man who has become the most evil.
Yeah,
that can become.
Yeah, but yeah, I was a kid back then. Anyways, yeah, but I just like how she hands him the knife, and she goes, okay, if it be the will of Mitra, I will await you there. And she quickly disappears. And Conan has to make his way out of the black pits of Belveris on his own, which only to run into what seems to be an ape man.
Yeah.
A grizzly man-eater, as it's called. And this is...
he had noticed before, earlier, when he's in the dungeon, like when it starts, when he's, as it has said, he's had despaired a bit of his position. And he noticed, I think it's a skeleton on the other side. And he noticed that the bones are broken and their marrow has been taken. and he's wondering like what could possibly have done that, because that's not maybe the most easiest of tasks.
Yeah, and Howard builds up here.
Yeah, in
It's
the
very
very early.
he presents the, I guess you could say the clue, and cracks the
He's
mystery.
not alone. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it takes a long time for skin to rot off bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep. And
I wonder if this is any relation to Thack. Now I remember we've been playing Conan Chop Chop, so
yeah.
so
Yeah,
I'm
right.
remembering like, is he any relation to Thack? Like in the species, is this a subspecies? I mean, they do go
Oh.
into it what he is. They say here later on, but
And for anyone who's not yet watched our Conan Chop Chop live streams, go watch those. They're fun.
yes.
yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
I was
actually.
reading it, I couldn't help but think, this is like the Yeti.
Hmm.
Yeah. The myth of the Yeti. Yeah. It comes from the. Here's one thing. It comes from the eastern shore of the Sea of Vilayet.
Yeah.
I think that's the inland sea, I believe.
It was a grey ape, one of the grisly man-eaters from the forest that wave on the mountainous eastern shores of the Sea of Vilayet. Half mythical and altogether horrible, these apes were the goblins of Hyborian legendary, and were in reality ogres of the natural world, cannibals and murderers of the nighted forests.
Mm,
Sounds horrible.
it does.
Like a really vicious creature, and it is. I think it's well written that it is like Conan comes very close to death here.
It
It's,
nearly rips him out, literally to pieces and apart.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is. It's been like built up that this ape is actually very, very strong. So
And Conan ain't no ordinary toothpick.
yeah,
No.
exactly. And he had. I like it that it begins before the encounter that he knows that he has like one strike. Like that's it. There's no try again. There's no second guess. He has to get it right the first time. The knife strike into the heart, and has to survive long enough for it to take effect, basically, or otherwise he's dead. There's no. I think that's very well like made written the segment logically written and given. So it's not just like you could have written this like, okay, here came the ape and Conan struggled and he overcame it and like that's it but he made a few stages to it. I don't know, I just liked it. I thought it was
It's a multi-staged fight where spot each other.
Yeah.
Then comes swinging at him. He has to give one great strike. What's also great about this scene is that I'd almost argue this is a metaphor for Conan's entire life. He only has one swing at it, and he throws everything he's got into it,
yeah.
which that's Conan.
And sometimes the beast that you face is far bigger
And meaner.
Once again, there's some really cool illustrations here in the
Yep.
Indeed.
we start.
Let me find my.
This is
There
the
was-
Del Rey books. So anyone wants to get one of these, it's the Del Rey books. Very, very good. Probably the best editions of the Conan stories.
El Rey. Very
Well,
fitting
There's
of the king.
But I just remembered there's also at the beginning of chapter 5 a reference to Stoicism in Conan.
Yeah,
Which,
that's where I thought you would begin.
yeah, sorry about that. I just remembered it. Well, he is a very stoic character. And yeah, you know me, I love Stoic philosophy and Seneca and
I mean, he's stoic on the one hand, but on the other hand, he can be really like outgoing, abrasive, especially when drunk or drinking.
yeah,
In-
A man who lives by opposites, yet it's a perfect unison.
Yeah. He's both the ruler of the civilized world in a way, but he's the most uncivilized man in a way. And Zenobia has not been idle, and she reveals that. Well, first she says, "Okay, I will lead you outside the city wall," and she already has a horse ready for him. Which the level of preparedness she'd come down to him with is just, she planned this so darn well. And it's not that everything's going according to plan, but just she got him the knife. She brought booze to the guards. She also prepped a horse for him. Like, the difference between her and the other two great ladies is she may not be a direct action girl, but she's very clever, and she keeps a level head in a way that, now I know Baelit had her level-headed moment, but the problem with Baelit was when she saw that treasure, she lost sight for everything else. And Valeria, my favorite, is just, she's more Conan than Conan in a way. She's more impulsive, and she's like Brule or Cull. She can be a berserker. She tends to sometimes forego judgment and plan.
She'd want to break out through the front door.
Almost. But Zenobia comes in with a plan and executes it perfectly. Sorry, I'm really appreciating her as a female character.
And the fact that she prepared everything beforehand. Oh, I know the layout. I know where to leave the horse.
Maybe she should have led Ocean 11. But she strikes me as almost being Odysseus in a drag. She's just, sorry, it's just remarkable, because in this kind of situation, well, your average person would probably be pretty overwhelmed, especially with a Dark Lord nearby. But she's kept a level head. She's planned things out. She doesn't lack courage, is my point. Or
maybe it's also she has this is what she has prepared for, her whole life, the opportunity to actually break free from the predicament she is in, this darkness in a way, and but to help Conan to actually see something good come out of everything.
Well, yeah, and I got two things to say about that. One is that alternatively, if, let's say, she was planning to escape the entire time, and let's say Conan was not a prisoner, would she have made straight for Tarentia, the capital of Aquilonia? I just wonder, because how far could she have gotten on her own?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I don't know. Could be.
But on the other hand, difficult. She plays the role of, in the hero's journey of the goddess. This is the encounter of the goddess to an extent, who lights the hero on their way and helps them break free of their bonds and out of an initial darkness to some extent, and who gives them the quest. But to an extent. But here it's...
Yeah. Also, we forgot one thing here in chapter 5, is that Tarascus had, as we said before, secretly come back, and there's obviously discord between him and Xaltatun. He did not like at all that Conan was spared. Obviously, makes sense.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very nice, interesting and well done, that he had come back secretly, and he had subtly, it says here, Tarascus had come so subtly to his door and later had fled so swiftly. Or now he knew why. The king had unlocked his door, and somewhere in this hellish pits had opened a cell or a cage that held some grim monstrosity. So Tarascus had planned that he opened another cell which held this ape, so that would take care of the Conan problem without implicating him in regards to Xaltatun, like, oh, it just happened, so he wouldn't be basically blamed for it, and Xaltatun would, I don't know, use violence against him in some way. And we later on the next chapter, when we get into it, we find even more the discord that is growing and brewing, and the plans and the schemes that are going between them.
It's interesting that they can't seem to get along, and it's also interesting that Xaltatun, rather like Sauron, there's no concept of defeat in his mind. He's so arrogant, and
Yeah.
this is something we discussed last time, and I still find it a fascinating theme.
It's also interesting that Tarascus is like he's his enemies everywhere. Like everyone is like he's basically the epitome of a betrayer at heart, like a traitor at heart, because he knows that how a traitorous heart works and a mind works. So he sees traitors everywhere around him. He basically only trusts his squire, and everyone else is like suspicious of. And he's like, he's convinced himself that Exaltatune will definitely do something to him. And maybe he is right in that instance, but
it's
still,
not paranoia if everybody is out to get you.
No, but it seems like he's that kind of person that is, against every, because I got that vibe like yeah, that also, but I got that vibe like early on, like when they already summoned him at the first, and he seemed like kind of like already that it was brewing in his head, that Exaltatune will betray them. I don't know. I got that like sensation from Tarascus. Yeah.
Tarascus,
which is interesting. Why did he resurrect when he had, he thought
I think he was desperate for the throne, but
definitely.
Tarascus is a really interesting character. He's like Starscream from Transformers 1986, who betrays everyone, and who sees nothing but traitors.
Yeah.
But he's also ultimately someone whom his betrayals, his schemes, we might say like it's not paranoia if everyone's out to get you, but like you noted, I like how you pointed out he is kind of creating his own enemies.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I wonder if that's going to be his undoing one day and whatnot, because how can such a man survive for very long? Eventually his betrayals and his black heart will catch up, and his misdeeds will catch up with him.
I mean, it's quite an example. Like, I don't know, it just reminds me of history. Like, people who've taken the throne by betrayal, and they usually like get the knife in the back themselves quite fast. It seems like it feels like those kind of people who do those kind of things, their kind of level is that it then is, I don't know, signaled to everyone around them and every person that they also can be taken out by the same means because they themselves did that deed. So the threshold is lower, for betrayal against the betrayer, in a sense. If you know what I mean. It's kind of like,
I know.
In history, it feels like if you look at the Roman Empire, there's lots of people who got the knife in the back.
Oh yeah,
like almost immediately afterwards. So,
but you also look at like people who betray their, even people who betray their country or their, or even just betray almost in general. Like you look at Edward IV, he betrayed a lot of people to get the throne of England. Now he was not betrayed. That's not how he went down, but his children were killed by his brother. So, the betrayal came back to haunt his line. But you also have like, you've got the Bourbon dynasty through Louis XV and XVI and Marie Antoinette. They betrayed the French nation several times. And what happened? Well, the French got angry and chopped their heads off and said, well, you've mistreated us and lowered our standard of living, and you've made life a living hell for us. We have no compulsion and no reason to play nice with you. And often wickedness bounces back at you.
I know that
maybe there is something to the Asian concept of karma.
Because I know there was one ancient king poisoned his brother to take the throne.
Which king?
Yeah.
I forget which one. But he grew so paranoid that someone would poison him that he ingested a bit of poison.
Oh, Mithridates.
Yes, so that way he could grow an immunity to these poisons. And then he was given the choice of...
well, actually, Mithridates, I think, died of old age or something.
Yeah. But it's funny how here it is. In the end, he's like, oh, I want to die by poison. He couldn't die by poisoning because
Right.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, he was a man who claimed the throne illegally and ingested a lot of poison over the course of his life. We also look at the last example I would use is Crassus, who lorded his money over everyone, betrayed everyone, and the Parthians decided to punish him for all his betrayals and his cruelty by taking molten gold and pouring it over his head.
Oof.
In order to punish him for his avarice and his wickedness and his betrayals. Also of their treaties, because he had broken the treaties with Parthia. Yeah. And Crassus went down horribly. So, yeah, this is actual history here. And Tarascus has that kind of fate, I imagine.
That's just what I mean. Like, it feels like there's this, around around these kind of persons, like there's a lower level of betrayal back at them easier because they have themselves put themselves as a lower person who chooses betrayal and traitorness or being a traitor. So, and looking at history, it feels like that they don't have that, like, more noble kings, leaders and stuff like that. They weren't maybe as easily,
yeah, typically good leaders and rulers, weirdly, I say weirdly because it is a little peculiar, not all of them, but a lot of them passed in their beds.
Yeah.
And well,
it's just that Tarascus reminds me of a weasel. Like,
yeah, he is a
weasel who is a traitor at heart, so he sees enemies absolutely everywhere. I mean, even when he talks to Orestes, the renegade priest, in the next chapter, it seems like he's like, what were you doing? What were you doing with Saltatun? Like, what where have you been? Like, what? There's this, like, he's trying to gauge
suspicion.
Yeah, and it even says here, like, Tarascus looks on at Orestes' face, trying to discern, like, is he lying to me? Does he know that Conan is here? Like, he's gauging all the time, looking at, is this a traitor? Is this like it's
just like Domitian from Roman history? Just everyone's a traitor.
Yeah,
everyone is to be done away with. If like,
what a life!
Your wife, to your sister, to your brother, to your friends, everybody.
Yeah.
Imagine there's a Batman line from the 90s where, what would you do for a good night's sleep?
Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine that life. You're like on the edge all the time. Like, you're thinking he's going to betray me, kill me in my sleep.
Ironically, I remember there being a French king who kind of mistrusted everyone because his dad kind of wanted to do him in early in his life, Louis XI. But how he countered, his own inherent suspicious, paranoid nature was that he made sure he was very close with his kids. So he loved his kids and whatnot. He trusted them implicitly. He made sure that he was friends with some of his guards so that his favorites would be right outside his room. Right. And he surrounded himself with like 10 to 30 dogs in his bedroom.
Oh, yeah, that's very smart.
Like, if anyone slips into my room,
the
dogs will go off.
Oh, yeah.
And they're trained to attack. And no one could get past my dogs.
Exactly.
And apparently it worked. There were assassins who tried to slip in, couldn't get past the dogs because they'd wake up, the dogs would kick up a fuss, and it doesn't help. Louis was a really well-trained warrior.
Imagine like 30 dogs descending upon you, trying to come in.
Our dogs. Can you get that? Nope. It's just the door opening. Yeah. But
like, imagine you're trying to sneak into the king's room and like 30 eyes like look upon you like dogs. It's like, oh no, like, this is my end. This is the end. Like,
because I remember reading up somewhere he just slept with his dogs, and he had his wife sleep in a different room. He didn't even trust her, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, a lot of us French people in Canada are dog people, but this takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah, I got a few dogs as well.
Same.
I love them.
Yeah,
the dogs.
There are several rulers that went with the mentality. You may not be able to trust your guards or anyone else around you, but you could trust your dog.
That's probably why there's so many royal dogs Like the
Yeah.
pharaohs had the it's called the pharaoh dog,
Yeah.
a typical breed, and then of course the English monarchs have dogs, and probably Scottish had as well. I think a lot of kings and emperors had dogs.
Yep.
Good for good reason. So
Now,
we're
back to
we
the story.
yeah.
Now, Conan once again doesn't trust her on page 609 of my copy here.
So we are now
and-
on the chapter 6.
Yeah, we're now
Yeah.
in chapter 6. He puts an arm around her, and she pretty much says, and he does end up showing her the red dagger. She doesn't flinch from it, and she's just like, "Well, I'm just happy to have your arm around me. I don't really care," which is just she. Oh my gosh! But the fact that she's not even intimidated by this blood red dripping dagger, she's got some nerves of steel. Her.
I think this is very, very in line with Conan when he said, "You played me fair so far." Like Conan will play fair with you if you play fair with him, and and he will look at it like, "You played me fair so far, inclined to believe in you, but I've lived this long only because I've trusted no one too far, man or woman. So now, if you play me false, you won't live to enjoy the jest." And it says she did not flinch at the sight of red, like you said, at the redded poniard.
Yep. And she says, "Cut me down without mercy if I play you false. The very feel of your arm about me, even in menace, is as the fulfillment of a dream."
I mean, we have to remember also, like she must have basically a very lonely life. Obviously, she has friends with the other girls in the Seraglio, but
Probably
like but like we said, yeah, exactly that, and then the slave ship of it, like they can't go anywhere. They're there's guards all around all the time, and
there's an old
stuff like that.
Manga, Japanese comic book from 1995 called Red River Anatolia Story, and in it, the villainess became evil because of the monstrous loneliness of living in a harem for like 20 to 30 years, and it presents the point of view, like most of the female characters are from within the harem, both heroes and villains, and what some of these harem girls, like the story is an examination of the Hittite and Egyptian harems of the Bronze Age, and the thing is, the impossible suffocating loneliness that's conveyed in those stories is something that always stayed with me, and I always found, wouldn't want to be one of those gals, or one of the guards for that matter, because if you're caught even glancing at the girls,
didn't they employ a lot of eunuchs? I think in the Ottoman Empire or some other
Ottoman Empire employed black eunuchs.
Yeah. For the very reason.
The thing here is her life would be just suffocating. There'd be no one she could trust or connect with.
I wonder, like, at what point, like, what would they do with her? When she reaches a certain age, would she just be like?
They might just throw her out.
Throw her out. Yeah, that's sad. That's very, very sad.
But I don't think she ever intended. She's too smart. Is my point. Like, she's not going to go out like that.
No, I like I said, like we've talked about here. Like she says, I'm a human, I'm a person. Like she has a purpose. Like she has a destiny. She wants to do something with her life, and
and she
admires Conan in that sense. Like she sees destiny on him. She sees a man who's by his own hand, who's helped the people change. Yes, and help the people also. Like for those who don't know, like the former king Numidides was a tyrant, and because the people revolted, and Conan was basically chosen, and he decided to lead the uprising and take the throne. So he was not a typical royal family backstabber or royal family play of politics who took the throne.
And because well, I think that all those deeds made him worthy of her because she's the queen archetype. Because the queen is typically, the embodiment of the perfect female archetypally in literature. Like you've got the lover, you've got the magician, you've got, it's the counterbalance to the king archetype. But what else is going on with her is that, well, we'll see later. But she's pretty ambitious, her, I think, because she wants Conan, so she's kind of putting herself in a position where if he reclaims the throne, she'd be well served.
Yeah.
So
but I also no, go ahead.
I was going to say that now I'm not questioning her love for him, but I just think in a way she's like a female Conan in a way, but not in the physical like combat sense, but more character.
I like it. I read it as she has this purity to her. So I like that part because it's somebody might not, but I like it because it's different to like all the other women in Howard's stories, and also to the Hyborian world. Like she hasn't been tainted in that sense. Like she has had a hard life, but she hasn't let that taint her. Like she's kept her, a purity of spirit. So I like that, and also I kind of read that's one of the reasons also Conan is becomes smitten with her, because he's like, okay, like no one has really, without ulterior motives, just given themselves their life and all that. Well, basically immediately. Like obviously he's used to it when with men when in war after years of together in war, obviously brotherhood and stuff like that, but in this kind of sense, in this situation and person. So I don't know, for me I just read it like she doesn't have ulterior motives, and that's how it's written. And I like that purity, and it's a contrast to other characters in Howard's universe and stories. So
I think that way of reading it is probably the best way. But and there's another thing that I think you're touching upon that I really like, is that she's had to repress everything for years, her entire life. And here, like, everything's coming out. You know what I mean? Like, it's all coming out. And but I think that what I meant was, like, she's well positioned to profit should he succeed. But I say that, but I'm now going to defeat that point in a way. How can Conan come back from such a total defeat? I don't think anyone in the right frame of mind, now I'm not saying she's not in her right frame of mind, but who would actually have faith in him to reclaim the Aquilonian throne, to defeat the Saltotune, and to liberate her?
And the armies, the
thing is, none of these difficulties matters. She just sees it as what's important is he is free, and he is, going to bring down those monsters. She has faith in him. And that is something which I don't know what the word in English would be. Some might say, I think, innocent. I don't know if I'd say innocent. I'd say probably, I don't know, like she's not fixed, but she holds fast to her hope and her faith in him.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Like she sees something in him, greater than the basic, just another king here and there. You know what I mean? Like it's
and which I think the closest I'd compare it to is kind of Gandalf's sense of hope when he talks about hope to the Fellowship, because there are a few points in the Lord of the Rings when you have everyone else like, we can't come back from this defeat. We've lost. Gandalf, what are we to do? And he says something like, we have to go beyond hope. Well, what's beyond hope? A greater hope. a determination, something that no one can take away from us. And we have to go that far. And because if we lose hope and faith in our victory here and defeating the shadow, well, what like we've come too far. We can't just give up. And to give up would be to fail everyone in Middle Earth. And we have to go beyond that hope itself. We have to be kind of greater than what most mortal men are capable of being. And she kind of seems to have the same kind of belief. And at least that's what I thought was hinted at. And just that ability to retain that kind of hope in such a impossible circumstance in life, like to be confined to the Seraglio and basically imprisoned for life like that, and enslaved and stripped of everything, dignity, pride, basic human decency. And yet she retains hope. That's incredible. But she ended up apparently seeing Conan brought in by the guards, and that's when she decided, I'm going to liberate him. And she ends up.
That's actually just one thing. This whole thing reminded me of when we're talking about this kind of hope beyond hope. I don't know. It just reminded me of in the Bible. There's a person called Rahab who, at the Battle of Jericho, she like holds on to hope that the Israelites are they're gonna take the whole of Jericho, even though it's undefeated. It's huge walls and stuff like that. It just kind of made me think of that story.
Okay.
Same with like she like helps the scouts out from within inside the castle, helps them flee, and holds on to hope even though she knows like she would be killed if she would be found out. And also she hopes, even though she has no evidence like in front of her that her situation is going to change, her life is going to change, but she holds on to that. It just reminded me the same kind of. I don't know if he.
I completely forgot about that story. I think I read it as a kid.
Yeah.
Last time I read the Bible, I was probably like 11 years old or something. So it's been about 20 years. I probably should get around to reading that book, just like I've read a bunch of other classic lit and whatnot. I just like to read older books because there's a beauty to them and whatnot, and the language. Now, she ends up being asked again, "Are you leading me into a trap?" And here she sinks to her knees and seizes his hand. "Oh, my king, do not mistrust me now." But the sinking to her knees part, once again, for me, it reminds me of the chivalric tradition of, the man on his knees before his lady. But also here, there's another tradition here. When women would plead for mercy for someone else, they would sink to their knees and typically hug the knees of their king.
Yeah.
And the king would typically be expected to immediately fold, or at least because, this is the feminine asking the masculine for mercy or for something. And most kings were expected to heed the plea because it was very important ceremonially that he be seen as a positive protector, a positive figure. Not every king did that, but quite a few did. And here she tells him, "If you doubt and hesitate, we are lost. And why should I bring you up out of the pits to betray you now?" Now, here she's not pleading for her own life. It seems like she's pleading for his life. So that's where it's very interesting that she's all but hugging his knees. Well, she's actually hugging his hand and trying to tell him, like, I want you to save yourself.
Yeah.
And there, it's just, once again, he seems stumped by her.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I like. I like it. I actually very much like it. Yeah, I think it's actually beautiful. It's in a sense, this is a woman who like stumps Conan, She's
Yeah.
not in fighting ability and stuff like that, but actually in character, in who she is. And I'm liking it more and more as I read this. And I think this is really good. This when Conan now admits like first he says, I'll trust you, though by Crom, the habits of a lifetime are not easily put aside. Yet I wouldn't harm you now if you brought all the swordsmen in Nemedia upon me. But for you, Tarascus' cursed ape would have come upon me in chains and unarmed. And that's true.
Yeah.
Because
saved his life.
because we heard earlier in the earlier chapter, Conan heard noises. Like he heard someone go to a cell or a door, and something was open, and someone left, and he was like, "What's that? Like, what's happening?" And that was Tarascus opening the cell for the ape to come and kill Conan.
I just was reminded of something else. She doesn't have a weapon on her. She gave it to Conan.
Yeah.
And that says that she's putting her life in his hands.
Yeah.
Yes, she's guiding him out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I wonder if she has seen Conan. Like it says, she saw her or him. Sorry, in accompanied with King Nimed. But did she like see him more in that company? You know, because she might have been a part of the Seraglio already. Like, would she have like seen a bit of the interaction between Conan and King Nimed and stuff like that? So she would have understood that she didn't give her life to some, killer, like a brute, like a brute person who would just snap her immediately, or kill her.
Conan ended up. I got the impression that it was a bit of a triumph alongside triumph parade in the classic Roman parade sense,
Right.
alongside King Nimed. But at the same time, Conan is one of the few Aquilonian monarchs to want to lay aside the old rivalry, at least have some semblance of peace, although it was on his terms, not on Nemed's terms. And I think that it's at that point that she saw him, but I think that she did get the sense that he was a decent man at his core, and this is what drew her to him. And
because someone might have just killed her immediately, so as not to be revealed. Not trusting the girl to not reveal him. It's safer for me to kill her and put her somewhere, in an alcove or something, and then try to escape myself. Like a worse person, a bad person would have thought like that. No, maybe a bad king. So.
And then we got Tarascus, scheming with a ruffian. And
it's a mysterious person. It's interesting. It's seems like an assassin or something.
Yeah. And you have Tarascus who, the guy says, I'm kind of a criminal in Argos. So I don't care.
That was a good throwaway line. Like, there's a matter of a murder in Argos. Like, who cares, dude? Like, go do your.
Wait,
what I paid you for.
Yeah. But anyways, it's like, I don't really care. You've got Conan who decides impulsively, you know what? I'm going for Tarascus. I got a knife. He's right there.
Yeah, but before that, because this is a big reveal here, Xaltatun has stolen something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a huge thing. He's stolen the heart of Ahriman, the power of Xaltatun himself. Like, this is next level. Like, you've talk about a traitor. It's like he's completely he's taken the next stage already. Like, already he's taken the next stage. He's gone after and taken the heart of Ahriman, thinking that he's gonna be betrayed first. Like, and to fair point, he probably would have been killed very soon by Xaltatun.
Yeah.
but he strikes first and takes the heart of Ahriman, and his point is that he's gonna just throw it in the ocean somewhere,
I don't
which is
think that's gonna work.
interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting choice, but I'm wondering, would there be in such a powerful artifact, like we're talking about, like almost ring level power, like from the Lord of the Rings?
Well, I'll fully say it's on par with the One Ring.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I'm wondering, like, would it have like powers of, you could sense it, like where it is for a powerful sorcerer. I mean, to
I think
locate.
so, but I think
Yeah.
that no matter what, it'll drift back to the shore.
Right.
And I think no matter what, Zaltatun will sense for it, and I think he'll send for it. And I think it'll find its way either to some dark mage, because it'll attract them like a moth to the flame. But I think that it'll, no matter what, drift to the shore. You could dump it into the heaviest box you want, dump it into the ocean, it'll still drift to the shore. And I think that the reason is that we should think of it in the same way as the One Ring, because the One Ring, the same argument is put. You could dump it in the ocean, it'll drift right back to the shore.
Right.
Why? Well, because we can't. It's just going to find its way here.
Yeah, it seems like. Yeah, it seems like the heart also has been showing up different points in the time of the Hyborian Age. Like, it's been found. It comes like the ring,
Okay.
So-
As for Garrett Christensen, sorry I didn't notice you were there. I've
Yeah.
got the screen box.
Hello,
And-
Garrett. Very good
Hope you're
question.
well. Did Howard know Novaline Price when he wrote Hour of the Dragon? If he did, she seems to be an influence on the female lead. I think he did know her.
I think yeah. If I remember, Hour of the Dragon is one of the later
Yeah.
stories wrote. It's like
Around-
almost the second last one, I think, before Red Nails or something. I think.
Let me see. Hour of the Dragon publication.
I think it was. I just read upon it. I think.
Okay. The novel was first published in serial form in 1935 through 1936.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
So-
the very last one.
and-
yeah.
When did Howard meet Novaline Price? I really like her name, by the way.
I think it's
Novaline.
she was already earlier, like 34, 35. I think.
Yeah, they met. They were briefly introduced in 1933, but then they ended up dating shortly after, it seems. Yeah, she was definitely probably the love of his life. And for some reason, Wikipedia says they're just friends, but
Yeah, also
doesn't seem to be the case.
she seems like a nice person. She also wrote her book in defense of Howard because of Elskrog the Camp's lies. And
Yeah, there were a lot of people spreading weird stories about him and
yeah,
how he was a weirdo. But it's like Grimdark recently said, he was basically a D&D nerd.
yeah.
From back then. He was just a nerd and a bit of a geek. But
Yeah.
except I'd argue he was an ascended one in a way, just in terms of intellect.
But that's a good point, Garrett. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, Novaline,
wonder
she was probably influenced on the female. I would think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
because
think so.
I'm going to refer to Tolkien. For Tolkien, Arwen and Luthien, the two most important female characters of his legendarium, were inspired by his wife, Edith Tolkien. And I think that we should perhaps look at Howard in a similar way, in that maybe Novaline's, like, as a whole, was the inspiration for Zenobia. But from what I read up, it looks like she, and you showed me a few comics with a few of her quotes, and in there, I got the sense that she might have also been the inspiration for Valyria, because she had that combative passion for what's right and whatnot, like Valyria does.
Yeah.
So there's certainly, Novaline seems to have had a large influence over Howard. So yeah. I'm going to give full credit to the this idea to Garrett Christensen. It's
Yeah,
a very
definitely.
interesting point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the Heart of Ahriman, and like that it does appear. At least from my knowledge, it seems to appear in the Hyborian world from time to time. And then there's the interesting theory we talked about. The maybe it's also the Tower of the Elephants heart. Maybe, who knows? But that's just a theory. But so it does have a like parallels to the ring in that sense. So it's interesting.
I really like the idea that it's basically this world's one ring. Oh man, I love that.
I think Tarascus here is once again arrogant and thinks, yeah, I'm just gonna throw it away somewhere.
And that'll solve everything.
Yeah, it will solve everything. It's like I think Solitude is very powerful even without the.
And he's not going to be happy.
Yeah, he's not gonna be. And who's he gonna think has stolen it? Like, oh, yeah, it was some slave girl. Yeah, right. Yeah, like there's not many, culprits who it's gonna be. It's just like Tarascus or Astis or Amalric or one of these. Like it's not, and he was gonna kill them all anyway. So
yeah,
like,
I think he'll know that Erastes might not betray him.
oh yeah, that's true.
Zaltatun would betray Erastes. I think he planned to kill him, but it's the others that Zaltatun would know. One of them would have had their hands involved in this, and he's not going to forgive ever.
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know this plan. What is he thinking? Like,
I don't think Tarascus was thinking. I think
no, that's true. Doesn't seem like a smart fellow.
No, that's true. That said, Conan attacks him, and I love how Tarascus blunders around in the darkness, shrieking and screaming, "Help! Guards! Aridius! Erastes!"
Yeah.
For some reason, this scene here reminded me of Shakespeare, because there are scenes where characters are panicking in that kind of way, and it just reminded me of Shakespeare. I really liked.
Yeah, it's interesting. Stumbling in the dark.
Yeah.
Also, one point to the Conan just jumps on his.
Yeah, he jumps on him.
Yeah, the opportunity that he takes it immediately, even though
it's not wise.
It's not wise, and it's funny that it says like where does it say? It says here somewhere that he. It says like he has held on long enough. Like he's like, I had enough. Like I've hold on. I'm been standing here and waiting until he's alone like forever, and I'm just gonna jump.
But it seems like it's only been a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like,
it's like,
I think he's he got carried away. What, the escape from prison brought him back? I remember this feeling. Oh, look, the guy I hate.
Yeah. But he also admits, Conan himself admits it was a mistake, because she says, "Oh, what has happened? The palace is roused. I swear I have not betrayed you. No, it was I who steered up this hornet's nest." He grunted. Yeah. I like how he's just like, no, I know you didn't betray me. It's me who screwed up.
Yeah.
And, I think that this is where she's smart, but I'm going to compare her a little to the other two. Bela would have kind of wondered, what? Zenobia would have gone, you had to start something up? At least tell me you finished the guy off. Her, what does she do? She immediately just grabs him by the wrist and says, okay, let's go.
You mean Valeria? Because you
said Valeria would have been like, Valeria would have probably been the first to jump in, or she'd go, tell me you at least killed him.
Yeah, because you said Zenobia, so I got confused.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Zenobia
catches Conan by the wrist and just says, okay, screw it. We're going.
What's done is done. No need to scold you over your blunder.
Yeah, and he did blunder. But she's trying to reassure him, no, I didn't betray you, and you have him. No.
This is my bad.
It's a really funny scene. I read this as a very almost comedic moment.
Yeah.
I think Howard had a distinct sense of humor there.
Tripping on the tapestries.
Yeah. And,
kind of funny.
Yeah. And you've got, sorry, the dog's leg was kicking there.
There's awesome illustration here. This is a very well drawn of Conan and Zenobia.
Oh wow, yeah.
That's a very well drawn of Conan. I think it's and Zenobia as well. But like
One of the best drawings.
Yeah, very good. Done. So they are. He says they're cut off. I lock the door as I return through it, but they will burst it in a moment. The way to the postern gate lies through it. So,
Yeah, and they have to. She has. Well, the southern wall is also the outer wall of the city. Oh yeah, a horse is hidden for you in a thicket beside the road that runs westward, a few hundred paces to the south of the fountain of Thralos, and that's where. Yeah, I like how his reaction is to tell her, but what of you? I had meant to take you with me.
Yeah, that's a fair point to Conan. Like
he sees it as, I'm not going to abandon you. You've saved my life.
Exactly. Like, and here she once again shows wisdom that first she says, yes, that my cup of happiness is brimming, but I will not hamper your escape. Burden with me, you would fail. And that's true. One horse with two people, that's not going to go well at all. The horse will falter very quickly. And if it's pursued by a lot of soldiers, there's no chance. There's absolutely no chance of getting away. So she shows wisdom here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone who's a bit knowledge about horses, because of my wife, I know the horses would not make it with two people. So,
and here, my cup of happiness is brimming is the sentence used. Now, linguistically, I'm not as well read in the Bible, but I think there was at one point, I think it was Jesus who said, pass this cup of suffering onto another, or like, let me drink of it and let no one else suffer. Something to that effect. There was something about a cup of suffering, I remember.
Yeah, there's also my cup runneth over from Psalms.
Okay.
That's also you're filled with basically the Spirit of God, I think, and happiness and joy. My cup runneth over. So so that's quite close to my cup.
Yeah,
of happiness.
There's a biblical reference here, and Howard had read the Bible, and and he would know that reference. It's a really interesting sentence. So I think it's a direct reference.
I mean, there's an interview on YouTube with residents from Texas who lived close to the Howards.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of them.
Yeah, and she said that Howard had read the Bible because Conan had a resemblance of Samson from the Bible. Samson is a man with great strength, long hair, whose power was in his hair, but with great strength. So parallels there.
Well,
influences.
Samson is to an extent derived from the Greek myth of Heracles, and I'm just saying some of the stories there. And Heracles himself is the same archetype as Conan, and so we've got because Heracles is someone who's semi-barbarous, but he's civilizing the world in a way, and he serves the same kind of barbarian archetype as Conan, and that's where but as far as barbarian archetype, we'll refer to Grimdark, who does a great job in a lot of his videos explaining how the archetype and the archetypal story of the barbarian, bringing civilization back to its roots and its core values, works, because he does a great job explaining it. And I don't know, I just really like hearing him talk about that stuff. It may not be wise of me, but I'm glad he's doing Conan content again, because we didn't have him for competition for a bit, but I just I love his content.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great that he's doing Conan stuff again. I think definitely.
Yep. And in his most recent video, he gave a shout out to both our channels and to these videos or streams.
Oh, that's awesome. I haven't checked it out. I forgot.
Well,
To check out the.
he says
latest.
for book and short story guides to Conan content, he says check out the Brothers Grimm and World of Conan. We cover, those guys cover a lot of the stories and point by point and analyze each chapter and whatnot, which is kind of what we do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he
Hails to Grimdark.
Yeah. So anyone who's not subbed to him, go check him out. Subscribe. He's awesome. Well,
yeah, his playthroughs are also very fun.
Yeah. Now, we then shift point of view after I think Conan kisses her and takes off.
There were one interesting here. She says they will never suspect that I aided you willingly.
Yeah. Oh, that part I love it.
That's interesting. That wouldn't they suspect someone from inside the castle of aiding?
I don't think so.
Conan. That's.
I don't think they'll suspect that it was her.
Well, yeah, but because she's.
There are how many women in the Seraglio? How many guards? How many soldiers?
Yeah, that's
there
true.
Must be. Well, there'd probably be a few hundred women in the Seraglio. And
yeah, because someone had to give keys to take the locks off Conan.
Yeah.
So there must be an inside help, like.
And the guards will never confess who it was who brought them the wine.
They might not even remember because they were drugged.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And
I think she's covered her tracks too well, and so she thinks that there's the possibility that they'll remember her or at least suspect her, but they'll never suspect that she aided him willingly. But the reality is they'll never suspect her, I think, at all.
Yeah.
And but she says, go, what you have just said will glorify my life throughout the long years. As if to say, she's not sure he's going to be able to free her, but she'll always have the memory of him.
And his promise.
Yeah.
That I will take you with me.
Yeah, and he says, I'll go, he muttered. But by Crom, I'll come for you someday. That's essentially his confession of love. That he will come for her and he will set her free. That's a very, very beautiful moment.
And very Campbellian.
Yeah. But this is the moment when Conan is quested in a way. When
wheeling, he gripped the gold bars.
Yeah. It's here that he decides he will destroy Zaltotun and whatnot. This is, I think, what sets his path or sets him on the path. But then we get Tarascus writhing and cursing on a blood-splattered couch. And he's currently getting his wounds seen to by Erastes. And you have Tarascus who's fussing and calling upon every god, Ishtar, Mitra, and Set. And he's just not impressed. He's not happy. And
he doesn't actually know it was Conan. That was interesting to me. I thought Tarascus recognized Conan, but I guess in the darkness he didn't. That was interesting.
A very unpleasant encounter for him.
To
say the least. Yeah.
And you have Erastes who's remarkably calm. He just tells him that burns like molten pitch of hell, which you would be experiencing even now, but for your good fortune. Whoever wielded that knife struck to kill. Yes, I have told you that Zaltotun still sleeps. Why are you so urgent upon that point? What has he to do with this?
Yeah. And here's the part I referenced earlier. You know nothing of what has passed in the palace tonight. Tarascus searched the priest's countenance with burning intensity. Like, that's obviously written with purpose to say that, he's checking and seeing, like, who's going to betray me. Like, who can he trust? He's looking for it.
And Erastes pretty much tells him nothing.
Yeah, I've been just translating manuscripts, bro.
What the heck were you doing?
Exactly. I think wouldn't you say Orestes? Do you think he knows that Tarascus means to betray Xaltatun, and do you think like Orestes has like that's not a good idea, and he's kind of like maybe playing both sides, or like trying to go more to Xaltatun's side?
I think so. I think that he is on Xaltatun's side, but I think that like you have then you do not know that Xaltatun brought the king of Aquilonia captive to this palace. Orestes shook his head without particular surprise. I think he knew.
Yeah, true.
Like he's not even surprised. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Then-
or you could also take that's like the shifting of Orestes more in alignment with Xaltatun and his powers, like to the dark side. You know,
Yeah.
that he's facing. Yeah, that's true. I figure that, that he's embracing it more and more. I don't know, because he's in a peculiar place. Like if he knows about Tarascus' intent to betray Xaltatun, and he's kind of in the middle, like whose allegiance will he, or who will he give his allegiance? And what about Xaltatun? Will he kill Orestes? Like, does he really need him? Well, basically not, but now he's translating the manuscripts. But he finds himself in a very interesting place, I think, Orestes. He's in a very strange place here.
Orestes could play every side, and he, no matter what, every side needs him.
Yeah.
Although Xaltatun needs him quite a bit less, and
But
could probably get by without him in time.
Yeah, but that's what I find interesting. Is it like, how does he see it? Like, will his life be spared with Xaltatun, or? But then again, Xaltatun would probably need servants. I mean,
but I think that Xaltatun might regard Orestes as too smart.
Right.
It's the situation of Sauron and Saruman. But on the
Right.
other hand, Orestes, the difference between him and Saruman is that Saruman was not dedicated to Sauron. He planned to usurp Sauron.
Yeah.
Whereas Orestes, I don't know if he's wanting to usurp him.
Yeah, his motivations are kind of hidden right now.
Yeah.
His feelings.
I recall,
But apparently, sorry.
I recall because I know I'm into superheroes. Reading in a comic once, a character commenting about a supervillain who's all about mind control, saying the trick with people who mind control is that they always have at least one person who is truly loyal to them. And Xaltatun
Might be in that situation. Yeah.
or might have one person that he trusts implicitly.
But I don't think he trusts Orestes. I don't think Xaltatun trusts anyone.
That's fair.
There are very new acquaintances, though. Like Orestes just raised up Xaltatun. They don't have any bond. So,
but apparently, there's another thing to add to the mistrust Xaltatun feels. Apparently, his room is barred and bolted, according to Aridius, the squire. The guy bolts and bars his bedchambers. Now, admittedly, he does have the Black Lotus-induced nightmares and whatnot, but on the other, so nobody would want to go in there. But on the other hand, he's taking such great extremes to make sure his sleep is undisturbed. This is a guy who's paranoid too.
Can you imagine if someone just put the entire place alight?
Who knows if he'd touch that room?
yeah.
Or be able to get out in time?
Would he need to? I don't think the flames would ever touch that room.
That's fair.
And I only say that because there's some deep magics that surround Xaltatun.
I mean, Xaltatun has from his backstory, as we know, he's basically being betrayed by the priests of Set, the sorcerers, the wizards, and then the barbarians came in. But so obviously he has a healthy amount of paranoia around him. So he would obviously,
Him and Tarascus have that in common.
yeah,
Maybe they could form a club and get T-shirts.
yeah.
If they don't stab each other in the back.
That's par for the course.
But here we see the deeper motivation of Tarascus, like Saltatoon saved his life when I would have slain him, said snarled Tarascus. I saw his purpose instantly. This is interesting. Instantly, I think he's just reading into the motivations of Saltatoon. I don't think that was the point of Saltatoon. He doesn't need in that way Conan. He would hold.
Admits, I wish to learn what he intended to doing with Conan. So he admits. He says, "I know what he was planning," but then in his next breath he says, "I wanted to learn. I don't know what he was planning, but I wanted to learn."
Yeah, because he says he would hold Conan captive to use as a club against us, against Amalric, against Valerius, against myself. So long as Conan lives, he is a threat, a unifying factor for Aquilonia that might be used to compel us into courses we would not otherwise follow. I mistrust this undead Pythonian. Of late, I have begun to fear him, but why would Saltatoon care one way or the other about Aquilonia or the fate of Aquilonia? I don't like Saltatoon he doesn't seem like a man who cares anything about any nation. His motive is to resurrect Acheron, basically, to become the immortal wizard king, emperor, or whatever.
It seems like I'll say this. It seems like Tarascus looks at the map and sees Aquilonia, Numidia, and whatever.
Yeah.
But when Saltatoon looks at the map, he just sees Acheron.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking when he looks at the map, he just sees mine.
That's it.
Yeah.
But if you compare it to, for example, that's not a good example, but yeah, you've got in the next little bit the squire who reports that the dungeon's empty and the corpse of the Great Eight is there, and it's been stabbed through the heart, and Conan is gone. And that's where I'll give Tarascus some credit, and he does point out Conan's escaped. Like it's the only possibility. And he says, I thought Saltatoon was behind this wound. I see now. Gods and devils. It was Conan who stabbed me. And he orders search every nook in the palace. He might be skulking through the dark corridors. And he does not suspect that Conan might have an ally. The thought that Conan could have a guide, could have someone helping him out of the black pits and through the palace doesn't occur to him.
Here also he thinks it's Saltatoon that did something to him. All I could think of was there was some devil loosed on me by Saltatoon's magic. And also, like before I said, the Aquilonia thing, like Saltatoon doesn't care about that. Tarascus plays completely on a different level. He's like seeing only like his kingdom, like you said, like Kingdom Media, Aquilonia, and Saltatoon is completely somewhere else. Like Tarascus is pretty dumb. In a way, he doesn't understand the much higher implications of Saltatoon and his magic and his power, and he's just thinking he's playing some nation game. I don't know.
Still, I'll defend Tarascus in one regard. He's smarter than Amalric and Valerius. Those two. Now, Amalric, I think, just sees money to be made. Valerius sees just pleasures to be had.
Yeah, we haven't seen much of these.
Multiple nations on the chessboard. Orastes, I'm not sure what he sees. And Saltatoon sees Acheron, or as Dan put it, mine. So yeah. But then we got Tarascus, who says, let's let the troops pursue Conan and slay him. Saltatoon can hold. I'm sorry, I see my other bookmark was falling out. Can hold no grudge against us if we kill a prisoner to prevent his escape. And Orastes says, I'm no Acheronian, but I'm versed in some of the arts and the control of certain spirits which have cloaked themselves in material substance. Perhaps I can aid you in this matter. I think Erastes plans to capture Conan. I think here he's probably following the script set for him by Zaltatun, or what he thinks Zaltatun would expect from him. Or maybe he'd kill him like Tarascus wants. I'm not sure.
He's the only one with the biggest chance to come out alive of all of these four guys.
Yeah, I know.
It's like
he's the most useful.
Yeah, he's like playing on the edge, like I don't know. It's kind of funny.
And then we
But-
cut back to Conan,
Yep.
and
Oh yeah, this ending. Yeah.
he runs into a guy who's apparently what is called an adventurer.
Adventure. Yeah.
Yep.
Loyal to the king.
But they seem to serve a role where they're, as the term describes, they're adventurers, men who have not yet attained knighthood, so they're not squires, or they've fallen from being knights, but they're essentially all but mercenaries in the service of the king of Nemedia. But they're almost like the Rangers of Arnor, in a way, except they're not.
There seems to be good warriors, dedicating their lives to war and adventure, hard-bitten fighters.
Yeah, they're not. In this story, they're not exactly the heroic characters like the Rangers.
No. No, I think this is very self-interested.
Yeah,
Warriors trying to gain their status again.
yeah.
Or
Whereas the
station.
Rangers of Arnor are there to defend, to act as a frontier force against Angmar and all the demonic forces in the north of Middle Earth.
One thought I had when this happened, I was thinking, would he join Conan? Like this would be
join him.
Yeah, because this would be a great opportunity to become one of the closest companions to a king. And I mean, that status is much higher than just an adventurer in Nemedia, I would think. Like that would be a great opportunity.
I thought that this would be used to kind of introduce a kind of not a an Aragorn type, but like a bit of a Faramir.
Right.
You know, like someone who's might be initially self-interested, but then he becomes less and less self-interested. Well, Faramir is not like that, but like, you know, someone who becomes a companion to Conan, or someone who is truly doing this for the right thing, because Tarascus does not serve the best interest of Nemedia. I serve my country. That kind of guy.
Yeah,
and
because a lot of strange happenings have happened in Nemedia, and But then again, now I just remembered thinking of they just had a huge victory in war, so they might be really feeling themselves, and they're like, Nemedia is going to conquer, you know, and everything else, and we're going to be a huge empire and stuff like that. So it would make sense that he would have loyalty now. His loyalty would be very strong to Nemedia, to this king, right now, because right now it seems like everything's on the table. So why would he give his loyalty?
When I first read that part, or at least the first little bit, I was like, are we going to get to see one of King Nemed's loyalists?
Oh, dude, that could have been a really good
plot point where
that could
one of Nemed's men like, no, I don't serve Tarascus. I don't like where he's going.
Yeah, exactly.
I served Nemed. He was my king.
He was an honorable king who I want to restore the honor of Nemedia. That could have been.
And this Tarascus and his Zaltatun,
they give me the willies.
And I don't like where that's going.
Yeah, exactly.
I want out.
And I had actually thought that the guy might end up having a relationship, like almost like a what's the term? A kind of mentor-like relationship, or at least he felt loyalty towards the king, but also the king's sons, Nemed's sons.
Right.
So, no, there's a sense of that was the royal family. What this isn't. So I'll work with Conan because I don't like, what's been going on here.
I
But
just want to shout out Lord of Lek. Hi guys,
Hey,
sorry
Lord
I'm
of
late. I
Lek.
rewatched the
Yo.
other part later.
he's a regular.
Yeah, great to see
And-
you. Awesome.
And we have instead this guy ends up wanting to, and lo, I have caught a rare prize. That's his word.
Yeah.
And yeah, he turns out to be a crook, I guess you could say. I'm
Well,
trying to-
I mean, loyal to the media, so I mean, it's not really.
yeah, crook. I'm joking. I'm joking. No, yeah, he's there to basically. Well, he happens upon Conan by chance, and decides
He sees a horse that's been obviously left for someone, so he's suspicious.
Yep. He
So-
recognizes Conan, and Conan does him in. And then has to.
Yeah. I sorry. I just love this. The way Conan. This is now used in movies and TV shows, but it used to not be used. This that. He says, "You're Conan, king of Aquilonia. I thought I saw you die in the valley of the Valkia, but..." And during his speaking, Conan lunges and kills him immediately before he can get his what he's saying, like, killing him in mid-sentence, so he's unawares. Like, this is very usual now in pop culture, in movies, TV shows they're used, but it wasn't early on. But Howard used this already already in the 30s, making and I love that, like that, because that's smart. When he's not focused, he's talking, like
And
he's distracted, so Conan sees opportunity immediately to strike him, and it works.
I've seen 2 mangas. I think one of them was a fantasy one. I forget which one. And I've seen the Vagabondo manga, where like you have the character talking mid-sentence, and what the Japanese did was they reverse it a little. Like you have in one story the character's talking, then the person lunges at him, and the person leaps back and blocks, which is a bit of a weird trope. But with the Musashi manga, what that creator did was Musashi's talking, saying it's done to him, but he does it to others. But typically he succeeds when he does it to others. But when he's talking at one point, he says, "I can't follow you." And, here's a circle. He draws it with his staff or his cane. And he says, "Because my leg is wounded, I cannot follow you. So if you jump within my personal sphere here, I will kill you." But at one point, I think he's in mid-sentence. "I will," and the guy lunges at him, and Musashi just draws his sword, slices him in half, and says, "Well, I killed you. And if you do it now," to the guy's companion, "I will kill you as well." And the guy tries to jump at him while he's talking again, and Musashi just cuts him down, and then complains, I think something to the effect of, "You should not have leaped at me, especially when I was talking."
I mean, it's awfully rude.
No, he just says, "especially when I was talking," and stomps off. And he says something like, "For your rudeness," or so, I think he says, like, "For your rudeness, I will not bury you, but leave you to the crows," or something. And he stalks off. And it's
Someone,
a very brutal moment.
Yeah. Someone who I noticed uses this in the mid-sentence attacking in popular culture. I noticed was Joss Whedon in the Serenity show. What was it called? The Firefly TV show, and Serenity movie, and I think in Angel and Buffy might be. He uses that.
Batman,
which is
it's often written with Batman where he does this to others. I've seen Superman do it once or twice. It's a very popular trope.
It's a good, because sometimes the villains start to just come out with the whole plan of what they're gonna do, and it's like, okay, why doesn't the other guy just do something? Like, he's talking all kinds of nonsense here. Opportunities.
And here it's done.
I mean, I can't help but think of that movie, The Incredibles.
Oh, you got me monologuing there. He says, the villain. Yeah, I love that scene.
I actually haven't seen it.
It's a good movie.
Oh
It's
yeah.
superheroes, but in a positive way, in a very wholesome way.
Well, I also noticed the adventure was on Amalric's business, so not on Tarascu's business.
Yeah,
So he probably has a lot of money though, so maybe
yeah.
that's also why he didn't want to. But kind of hubris here. You're gonna take on
That's-
Conan, who you know has
yeah.
survived.
And there's another thing here. You have Conan who dons the guy's gray mail,
Yep.
like it passes an immediate adventurer.
Yeah,
And
that's a
he's
great
on a,
illustration.
I think he's on a white horse, isn't he? Yep, just
Here.
found it.
Here's an illustration of it.
I think he got the white horse from Zenobia, right?
think so.
So it's interesting she chose a white horse.
Yeah, that's
Just-
a great illustration as well.
I'm just saying because that's a symbol of purity in the West, and
Yeah, and the Conqueror. Yeah.
but Conan, it just takes him out like a champ. But
Yeah.
I think there was a bit of a missed opportunity for a companion for Conan early on here. That
He also had a two-handed great sword, so might not be the fastest thing to draw advantages. Advantage
unless
as
you're
well.
Conan, who could probably use it as a short sword.
Because it says here his heavy sword half lifted before he could either strike or parry. The king's poniard sheathed itself in his throat above the gorget, slanting downward into his heart. Ouch. That's a great scene though. And it's a great like how he happened upon it. So I mean either way, it's a great end to this chapter though.
This is a great chapter.
Yeah, it was much longer. The last chapter,
Yeah.
the sixth chapter.
Yep.
It was much longer than the
Fifth chapter.
and it's also aptly named. It's named "The Thrust of a Knife."
Which knife stroke was it? Seems like there were so many.
Yeah, there's two thrusts of a knife in this chapter, so that's very good. But yeah, so we've come to the conclusion that the Conan has freed himself, well, with the help of Zenobia, obviously, but he's free now and will return to Aqualonia
To reclaim what's his.
Imagine there, and I would figure that Saltatun will be extremely, extremely mad, or at least quite mad.
Yeah, he's not going to be a happy camper because
He'll be a little displeased.
Because essentially, you're probably going to wake up and say, "I left you alone for 5 minutes, and you bungled everything. How'd you do that?"
Yeah, we'll see if he's going to blame Tarascus with this, or will he play it like, "I won't blame you much because I'm going to kill you anyway later, so it doesn't really matter." Or it will be interesting, and also see what Orastes' play will be in all of this. Will he fully commit himself to Exaltatune, or will he just try to survive whichever way?
Who knows? They're both. I'm loving how. What I'm going to say is almost each one of these villains could be a really good villain for their own story or novel. Because
that's true.
Even Valerius and Amalric could be pretty good villains.
But we haven't seen much of them. Yeah.
Well, I just view as in terms of being an obstacle.
Right.
And we've seen their type of villain before. And because we've seen them time and time again in the short stories. And you have Tarascus, who could be a pretty good villain, a much better villain than those two. And we then have, and we've seen his type as well before. Orastes reminds me of Fafaman in a way. And he, he's an even better villain than Tarascus. and then you've got Zaltotun, who's essentially a Dark Lord. So you have these different villains that could all work feasibly well in really good stories, and they're all in it to get like they're all in the same story, and that it just adds to it.
Thothamon obviously much more arrogant than Orestes, but
Fair enough.
but yeah, that's true.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Orestes just strikes me as very careful.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's why I don't know. His part in this is very interesting to me. I don't know, like
He's
because he can go so many places. You know, he can even like betray everyone and go to Conan.
yeah.
And bring like information about Xaltatun that will help Conan to, to strike the final blow.
He reminds me of
Or info about Heart of Ahriman. That's also interesting. What's going to happen with the Heart of Ahriman? How will Xaltatun take? Will he be able to block the guy who's being tasked to throw it away? Oh yeah, that's what I remembered also. Like the Heart of Ahriman is gone. I mean, forget Conan. I mean, he's gonna be insanely mad about the Heart of Ahriman.
Yeah.
Like, won't he just?
I wonder if Tarascus is going to try to pin that on Conan.
Won't he just? Oh yeah, that's true. Won't he just slaughter everyone? Oh, but yeah, like you said, if he pins it on Conan though, so then he.
Conan did just escape. So
Yeah. That would be logical. Otherwise, you're dead. You're dead.
Yeah.
You're not being resurrected. You're dead. Like,
yeah.
He's gonna burn you to a
now.
crisp. He's gonna burn you to a crisp and take your ashes everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I would.
Yeah. I mean, you took the Heart of Ahriman. Oh no. He's
No.
yeah, exactly. No. But this is very interesting to see where this goes because this is a huge mess up. Like it's a huge mess. Like what are they gonna do? Like the best, like you said, would be to pin it on Conan, the Heart of Ahriman. But it's basically the only thing they can do.
I'm honestly excited for the next few chapters. I've not read really ahead, so I'm really excited about where this is going.
Looking at the illustration, it looks fantastic. There's very interesting points, but I will see them later. Then, but
okay.
There's some really cool looking illustrations showing interesting points in the story.
And I'm happy to announce I just started the French version of The Hour of the Dragon. I'm still in chapter 1. And the language is very rich.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's a really good translation because the translation is like a rewrite. And this translation is using very rich French linguistics and wording. And the wording, the way it's written almost reminds me more of Lord of the Rings. While funny enough, the Lord of the Rings French translation reminds me almost more of Howard's writing in a way. And the French translator is very dedicated to Howard and is, let me see, I've got it on Kindle. Here, I'll just switch over there. Library. Let me see where. Hey, you removed it. I had it right there. Okay, let me just. Here it is. Okay, let me just. Okay, I'll go back. Oh my gosh! Now I'll just go to table of contents. All right. All right. He wrote. And sorry, it's taking me so long to find this. Here is his name. Her name, I think. Patrice Louinet. Seems to be a woman. So, that's pretty cool. So, she writes really well. Really well. Yeah. And the poem translation of El du Dragon, of Hour of the Dragon. La bannière au lion vacille, s'enfonce dans l'horreur des ténèbres. Un dragon écarlate frémit et s'anime, porté par les vents du destin, dans leurs armures étincelantes. Les chevaliers gisent ensemble, transpercés par les lances meurtrières. Au plus profond des montagnes hantées, des dieux noirs et oubliés s'éveillent. Les mains mortes tâtonnent dans l'obscurité. Les étoiles pâlissent de peur, car c'est là l'heure du dragon, le triomphe de la peur et de la nuit. She wrote it. She did a great translation of the poem as well, and
Okay.
it's really.
Yeah.
Oh, can you put her name in the chat for spelling, please? Oh, sure. Let me just. I'll just have to open up the live stream because I don't have it open. Oh, there it is. It's right on the home page. All right. 1 second. Oh, we have 5 people watching. It seems to be taking a while to load. Oh, it's not loading right. All right. I can't get it to reload. Okay. Let's see if I can get it here. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna go back to silent. Table of contents. I'll spell her name out. Patrice. Then her surname is Louinet. And super, but it's always on the things to do list, so I could practice with that. Oh yeah, do. It's great literature.
You can't. You can write it in the chat though. The name.
Yeah. Well, it's just for a moment. The chat was disabled.
Oh, okay. That's
for some reason on my end. No, it was just my computer, which wasn't working.
Right.
Here, I'll try. I've got it on Kindle because I couldn't afford the physical copy for the moment, at least not till the next paycheck. So let me try to find it on Amazon. I think here it is. No, I don't think this is it. Okay, actually, let me. Yeah, my computer is just not working. I'll have to find the link to it, and I'll have to post that in the comment section. It's a really good translation. It's by Patrice Louinet. She's really good. Like, it's such a good translation. I've only read about 5 paragraphs, and I think like either that or like a page or two in, and it's just really good already. And I'm going, this is a perfect translation.
Wanted to show I just ordered the Hour of the Dragon, the Ablaze version. Here's some artwork from it. So it looks pretty good.
Wow.
Like nice. They're the Europeans who do the I think it's the French who do these Ablaze comics. I think it's them. I think Ablaze is. But yeah, the artwork looks really good. So
I love the backgrounds.
Yeah, it's really well done. So that will be a fun read. It's compiled with the I think it's Beyond the Black River. It's like that one and the Hour of the Dragon in one hardcover for like 30 euros. So get it from Amazon if someone wants to. But yeah, it looks great.
I'm just looking something up for Lord of Lek. Let me see. I just want to make darn sure I've got it quite right.
Oh yeah, I'll show this.
Next week. Oh, that's quite nice. That's quite nice. I don't have too many of the French editions. I've only got the Kindle Hour of the Dragon copy. It's got a few other stories attached. I didn't order the comic. But okay, so Lord of Lek, the curse of English Canada, to spend years on a language in school, but because they don't really teach it, we all have a pathetic use of it. Yeah, I've always thought that was a little purposeful, because let's not give an inch to the French. But on the other hand, almost every English speaker I run into in Canada who's studied even a modicum of French want to study it more and are just such dears about it, such great folk about it.
Yeah.
And in that regard, I always wanted us to have a closer cultural ties to each other in a way, just because, there are French people who in Canada who've never learned English. They've only learned a little, but they've never been able to finish learning, and vice versa. So, there's this divide. If only we could cross the divide. And the best way to do that would be with the language. And the best way to do that, to learn the language, is through the literature. And so Lord of Lek, I tip my hat off, if I had one, to you for wanting to go that distance and read Hour of the Dragon, which in French, which is just already such a great read in French as well. I love it.
But this is the hardcover I got. This is a really great painting of Xaltatun with the heart of Ahriman. You see there, floating above his hand. Looks really cool.
And you have Conan above him.
Yeah, it's got the Beyond the Black River and Hour of the Dragon. So here you can see some. That's from Beyond the Black River, and then.
Wish I could draw that well.
Yeah, don't we all? I think, is there some part here of the Hour of the Dragon? Let's see. I think there might be. Oof. No, there's only Beyond the Black River. Okay, but anyway, this is the one I mean. Volume 4, the Cimmerian. So that's gonna be really cool to just check it out, the adaptation. Now that we are reading Hour of the Dragon, how it compares, how it looks, and all that. So I thought I definitely wanted to get it now. So we can, for me, that I can at the same time read that as well to check what it looks like.
Sure. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. The opportunity to actually use it in this country, even in the West, makes everyone annoyed that they didn't teach conversational in school. Oh yeah, I know. We've actually run into a few people from Alberta and BC who have just complained endlessly this past year about, why didn't they should have taught us better French? And some of them were like 60 years old. A few of them were like 20 and whatnot. And it's like, we feel you. Yeah. And ironically, I probably wouldn't know any English if it hadn't been for, our mother and insisting and a few relatives insisting. So on my end, I didn't start learning English almost till I was like 5 or 6. And I didn't feel comfortable with it till I was like 7 or 9 years old. Mm-hmm. It's something which it goes both ways. And there are still days when I go, I don't think I know English very well. So totally understand and respect that.
Yes, it was been awesome stream once again, talking about the 2 chapters. I want to thank everyone who was listening and who will listen later on as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed this with us.
It's fun.
Do guys read up with us? We're not that far along. We're just on the brink of the 7th chapter, so that's not much. So guys, definitely, if you haven't read it in a while, or if you have never read it, so just jump on with us and let's theorize. Let's talk about the different ideas, the points that they raise, like from history and all that stuff. It's really awesome. Like there's much to read into the story to see the influences and all that great stuff. Like
and it is such a rich novel.
Yeah, exactly. Like it makes sense that he's made it's the second to last of his stories, because it's kind of culmination of everything he's done with Conan and learning with Conan. He seems very matured in the writing with Conan, if you know what I mean. Like at least that's the sense I get from the reading this story, that it's very
and
it's focused and well-rounded.
What's funny is that what I had the situation of doing this past week is I remember, or at least I think it was last week, in my other stream with Dork Lords, we ended up talking, and he's a Tolkien tuber, so he rates Lord of the Rings as the be-all end-all. But I told him, I just started Hour of the Dragon, because I was telling him, you do other fantasy, you should also do Conan, because it's just as good. Howard is the other great granddad in a way of the fantasy genre, but belongs truly to mythology like Tolkien. And Hour of the Dragon is proving every bit as exciting and great and magnificent to read as Lord of the Rings is. And he said, high praise. Let's hope the story could back it up. I'm going to go pick up a copy or something like that. And I told him, you won't be disappointed. And I don't think anyone can be disappointed with this story. This is such a great novel. I mean, do rate it as high as Lord of the Rings to an extent. I
agree, but I'm going to say I think a lot of people don't, because Tolkien has so much lore.
The lore I love of Tolkien, because there's so much books. History.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like in his books, there's so much. Like there's an overload of it, in comparison to something like Howard, who wrote, to get paid in a sense, in a way, though even obviously loving his the writing, but still I'm just saying that because of the massive amount of lore and history and stuff like that in Lord of the Rings, that alone will just immediately say to people that it's better only because of that already, like immediately. Like the scales are kind of tipped against Howard in that way. So that's what I feel like many people will not see it as we might see it.
Well, I'll just say that I think that Howard has almost as much lore, and he does build up a lot of lore, but in a different style and a different manner,
right,
from Tolkien. But I don't know, I'm liking this as much as I like Lord of the Rings, which is to say I love Lord of the Rings, so
yeah,
it's in my top 10 to top 12 favorite novels, or like thereabouts. I never really quite think about it, except for my top favorite novel, which is like Last Unicorn and The Silmarillion Tide. But Hour of the Dragon is quickly becoming a top favorite of mine. This is just such a great read. Yeah, it's hard to compare the book to any single work as a gateway, though. Think of it like, for most who read The Hobbit first, it's a spectacular gateway. Yeah, Hobbit is a good gateway into the Lord of the Rings. I think for Conan, it's best to read some of the short stories before you get into Hour of the Dragon.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's just what I meant. Like, people will probably not see it as we might see it. They will.
Yeah, I'd even say one should read the essay before reading Hour of the Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, for good reason. I mean, the Lord of the Rings, all that it's a massive
epic.
yeah, I mean, it's a massive amount of work that went into all that. Like, it is one of a kind in that way. It's huge. It is incredible. So I understand in that point.
Yeah. That said,
Uh,
Conan is very well developed as a character, and
and the Hyborian world is rich.
yep,
Hyborian age is rich. It has a lot of nations, a lot of peoples,
a
very
lot of
developed.
details.
A lot of details about them developed.
Yeah, I just love this book so far. This is, well, as far as new reads of this past year, this might be probably my top.
It is a really good read.
Yeah, as far as new books I'm reading and whatnot.
And
But
it has like you said sometime, it has a very classical feel as well. You said Shakespeare, like Shakespeare moments and stuff like that. It's agree with that. So we'll see you guys on the next Hour of the Dragon chapter review on the Brothers Kryn channel.
Yep.
In what would you say, like a week or two, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably something like that. Guys, check out the playlist if you might have missed one of the earlier ones. If you think like because we alternate between the channels, so in the playlist you see all the episodes, so you don't have to like search always the channels, like, but you have it easily in that way.
And the playlists are on both channels, so you can
Lord of Lek here with last questions. Do you consider this story to be Howard's magnum opus fiber?
I consider it to be his magnum opus of his entire career.
Yeah, you could definitely say it. Like I said, it feels kind of like a culmination of everything that he's learned while writing Conan, and Conan's character is very well rounded and precise in what Conan is and what he isn't. So
and every sentence is written with care,
purpose, meaning, and also how do you say the word? Vulnerability, like with Zenobia, like even new concepts in that way. Very it challenges, even though it's very well rounded. There's a lot of
thought.
Yeah,
things.
Let's say it is. It's Howard's magnum opus for Hyboria. I mean, what else would be like? I know a lot of people have many favorite shorts: Queen of the Black Coast, Red Nails. I mean, there's a lot of stories people love, but in the scale, it's kind of hard to say that anyone else comes close.
Yeah.
This is.
Anyways, we got to get going.
Yeah. We'll see you guys, Lord of Lek, everyone else. Thank you all, guys, for watching, and we'll see, like I said, on the Brothers Kryn channel in a week or two. We'll go through the next chapters. Join us, guys, and definitely give us questions and viewpoints and stuff like that we might have missed, because that's awesome.
That's always exciting to see in the comment section.
Yeah,
litter this stream with all the comments you can, because that always boosts the video and the channel. And don't forget to smash that like and subscribe over here and over on our channel, because
like Conan taking back Aquilonia with that rage.
Yes.
Subscribe. Okay, guys. Goodbye. Hail Conan.
Hail Conan.